Hello and welcome to Opportunity Homes San Antonio's Finance Committee meeting. Please note that this meeting will be recorded in its entirety. I will begin by conducting Commissioner roll call. Finance Committee Chair Dalia Contreras,
Present.
Board Chair Gabriel Lopez, Board Vice Chair Gilbert Casillas,
Present.
Barbara Unkama Burford, Estrellita Garcia Diaz,
Here.
Janet Garcia, Leela Powell,
Here.
Valerie Carrillo, Board of Commissioners Attorney,
Present.
President and CEO Michael Reyes.
Here.
We also have an interpreter at the back of the room should you need their support. The time is 1:06 p.m. You may call the meeting to order.
Thank you. The Board of Commissioners or its committee may hold a closed meeting pursuant to Texas Government Code 551.071-076 for consultation concerning attorney-client matters, real estate, litigation, personnel, and security matters. The board or committee reserves the right to enter into closed meeting at any time during the course of this meeting. Are there any citizens to be heard?
There's one citizen signed up to speak.
Thank you.
Please. Now is the time for citizens to be heard. Citizens will be given up to 3 minutes to speak. Each citizen will be permitted to speak only once. The board asks the public to address concerns related to Opportunity Home matters and policy and not include statements that may be considered defamatory of any individual. The board encourages members of the public to direct specific concerns or problems to Opportunity Home staff for more prompt resolution. The board will not discuss the comments of speakers or respond to speakers during the citizens to be heard portion of the agenda. Our first speaker is Jonathan Wells.
Good afternoon, members of the board. My name is Jonathan Wills. I serve as the Director of Operations for Lakeway Security. I'm here today to formally address the recent decision to deny our award of RFP 2501-552. Lakeway Security is a Texas-owned and based company that has proudly partnered with Opportunity Home on multiple projects over the past several years. Our current and ongoing projects with Opportunity Home continue to progress smoothly and efficiently. We are proud of our reputation of integrity, professionalism, and quality of service. Our team values that trust that we've built with your organization, and we remain committed to delivering the highest standards of performance and accountability on every project. It is important to that hard-earned reputation that you know Lakeway Security did not violate any conditions or requirements outlined in the RFP. Our proposal was fully compliant, timely, and responsive at every stage, which actually was confirmed by Opportunity Home's own procurement and IT leadership, including direct communication from your Chief Information Officer, affirming that we had been selected for award. So it needs to be made clear, Lakeway Security did not violate any laws or regulations, state or federal. Our licensing and certifications were valid at the time of submission. And in this industry, it's not even uncommon. In this industry, it's not even uncommon for vendors to bid on or be awarded projects contingent upon obtaining final licensing or insurance documentation. What matters is that all that documentation or credentials is in place before any work begins, which is actually precisely the position that Lakeway is in today. We did have a brief administrative lapse in our licensing status following the submission that has been fully rectified and in no way is going to impact, or would it have impacted, our ability to begin or perform the work outlined in the contract. We are fully in compliance with all regulations with the Texas Department of Public Safety. The Lakeway security team appeared here in San Antonio on May 7th, prepared to receive the award, only to be notified less than 1 hour before the meeting that we had been removed from the board's agenda. We believe that that decision to deny our award was a misunderstanding or misinterpretation of the facts. I hope that today I've been able to clarify certain aspects that may have contributed to that decision. So I would like to respectfully request that the board review the facts presented here today and weigh this matter objectively and take the necessary steps to reinstate Lakeway Security as the original and rightful awardee of RFP 2501-552. We remain ready and eager to move forward with Opportunity Homes with the same professionalism, efficiency, and commitment that we have always demonstrated in all of our prior engagements. So thank you for your time and your consideration on this matter.
Thank you. Are there any other citizens to be heard?
There are no other citizens signed up to speak.
Thank you. With no other citizens to be heard, I'm moving us to individual item number 3, consideration and appropriate action regarding Resolution 6766, adopting the Opportunity Home San Antonio Internal Audit Plan for fiscal year 2025-2026. Allison Schlegel, Director of Internal Audit.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. I'm here to discuss the fiscal year 25-26 internal audit plan.
Not the budget.
That's not the budget. I'm here to discuss budget. Ah.
Aaron, you can do my slides.
All right. So the next slide. Okay. So just a little bit of background. The Internal Audit Department adheres to the Institute of Internal Auditors definition of internal auditing code of ethics and internal standards of professional practice of internal auditing standards as documented in the approved internal audit plan and the internal audit chapter. As such, the standard requires that the chief audit executive create an internal audit plan that supports the achievement of the organization's objective. The CAE must base the internal audit plan on a documented assessment of the organization's strategies, objectives, and risks. It also discusses that the internal audit plan, including significant interim changes, must be discussed with the board and senior management, and the plan and significant changes to the plan must be approved by you, the board. The process for developing the internal audit plan, we conducted a risk assessment with key variables assessed. We looked at public disclosure implications, increased senior management and/or commissioner interest, and internal or external compliance requirements. We also took into consideration independent financial and compliance audits, regulatory audits and reviews, and other third-party audits or reviews, and the time since a last audit was conducted. Next slide. The risk assessment implementation, we used a Google form with the option to interview participants. We also used the risk assessment methodology continue to focus on key variables and providing an option for a no risk. And then we also used risk assessment survey responses that were received from the Board of Commissioners, Opportunity Home leadership, and Opportunity Home staff. As a result, we received an 88% response rate, which is up from 81% from the prior year. Feedback to the format that we provided was positive, and the risk assessment will continue to build upon feedback received. The topics of highest interest were for procurement, the contract awards, solicitations, bidding, and vendor compliance, development services and neighborhood revitalization, or DSNR, and that was for expending City of San Antonio Housing Bond and Home Fund awards, affordable housing communities, the eviction processes, safety and security, review of contracted security services, asset management, the partnership reporting and overview, human resources, employee relations, and then community development initiatives, the resident council, tenant participation funds. The next topics of highest interest was for AHC, the increased accounts receivables, CDI, the MOUs for the agency formal agreement processes, construction and sustainability services, the administration, management, and oversight of capital improvement repair, retrofit or modernization construction, contracts received. Legal services, that was the eviction processes, public housing for maintenance and inspection processes, and then strategy develop data and innovation, SDI, the moving to work plan and the activity development and plan submission received. As a result, the next slide, I'm proposing the internal audit plan for fiscal year 24-25. The first quarter will include the procurement, where we review the contract award, solicitation, bidding, and vendor compliance. DSNR, we will review the expending of COSA housing bond and home funds. HC, where we will review eviction processes, which will also include the legal services involvement. Safety and security, where we will review the contracted of security services. Asset management, where we will be reviewing partnership reporting and overview. Human resources, where we will review employee relations. And then public housing and AHC, where we will review accounts receivable. In addition to that, we will continue with our compliance reviews for assisted housing, HC and mixed income, public housing, and the escrow disbursement and DPUI funding. And we will also participate in various committees throughout the organization, providing opinions of internal controls, and we will conduct special audits as needed. Any questions or concerns?
I have a question about the process. It may just be that I'm getting old, but did we follow this same process for developing the audit plan last year?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions? Without any other questions, I'm calling for a motion to approve Resolution 6766. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes.
Thank you.
Moving on to item number 4, consideration and appropriate action regarding Resolution 6773, authorizing the modification of a revolving line of credit from Frost Bank to the San Antonio Housing Facility Corporation, increasing the maximum principal amount from $3 million to $4 million, and authorizing the execution and delivery of all required documents, certificates, and agreements.
I'm gonna do this one for Diana.
Okay.
We're gonna try to save her voice because she's gonna do
Please don't.
a lot of
Oh.
talking today. Yeah. So this is
I'm
probably
sorry, Aaron,
Oh.
if I may interrupt you. Can we just note for attendance and record-keeping purposes that the chair is here? Thank you.
That's good afternoon. This is probably going to be the easiest item today. We entered into a line of credit with Frost Bank, which was in Frost National Bank, which shows you how long ago this was. It was back in 2008. We asked for $3 million at the time, and it was to be utilized for any short-term borrowing needs that we might need. Being that it's been 17 years and we have not increased that, we're simply asking to enter into a modification agreement with Frost Bank to increase that to $4 million. Just some background on the line of credit. It's a 3-year term. The current term expires October 14th, 2026. We typically renew it every 3 years. The interest rate is pretty high because it's pegged to the prime rate plus 25 basis points. So as of the end of April, we're looking at 7.75%. So this is really more of an emergency type situation, like if there was a pause on federal funding or something again, or a large temporary slash in funding, we could utilize this for operations.
Any questions?
I do have a question. So is it exclusively to be used for operations?
I mean, we've used it, I think, before for development type things in the past when we needed to, but it was back when we used it, the interest rate was more like 2-3%. So I think it would be more like a worst case scenario that we had to use it at this point.
Thank you.
I have a question. Is this in anticipation of something? I know you said we'd rarely use it, but
Yes, so there was that kind of scare right in January when the OMB kind of came and they paused all federal funding, and that could have been a point when we would have had to tap into that if that didn't get resolved as quickly as it did. I mean, we do have sufficient reserves to not have to immediately tap into it. That'd be more like a prolonged situation if we lost funding for several months that we would then might have to use it.
and the extension or the increase in the line of credit allows us to feel secure in the fact that if something were to happen, we have ample.
Yes, and we have a whole document as well. I think it's like a 4-page document, like a what if this happens type, and we have a whole action plan that we have developed in anticipation of anything like this happening.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Do we have a policy that the team follows to determine if and when to use the revolving line of credit, or any type of guiding documents that help make decisions on leveraging a line of credit?
I don't Right. Yeah, we do not.
We do not. Typically, that decision is made between the CFO and the CEO.
Okay. And that, have there been any challenge historically? I know we have a revolving line of credit, but we have very clear rules of, will we use this if, when?
No,
the
as a matter
process
of fact,
for
the only time I
approval?
can ever recall that ever being used was for that one
That
time
one
in
time.
development, right? It's
Okay.
Right.
Any other questions? All right, we're going to call for a motion to approve.
So move.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Aaron. Moving on to item number 5, consideration and appropriate action regarding Resolution 6763, approving the consolidated operating and related capital budgets for Opportunity Home San Antonio and its affiliated entities for the fiscal year ending June 30th, 2026.
And Chair, if I can provide an introduction as also give Diana a chance to rest her voice since it's going to be a long presentation. Just wanted to quickly say that, we spend a lot of work despite what's happening the last 4 months in our leadership in DC. We're very mindful of the changes coming. So we wanted to make sure we had a budget that's straightforward, but also mindful of those changes. So the agenda includes a quick background of goals and accomplishments, the funding environment that's approaching in the coming fiscal year, and of course, the actual bread and butter in terms of numbers for the upcoming fiscal year. Quickly, I wanted to go over a few accomplishments. You can see them in your packet, and they're also on the slides. There are 2 slides that identify the accomplishments in the last 11 months. I quickly wanted to highlight Dietrich Road Apartments. That's a new funding that is coming from the Housing Trust, which is really important for us to kind of maintain our existing public housing infrastructure and to make sure that it's there for years to come. There's also 511 new units that are going to go into our nonprofit portfolio, the Affordable Housing Communities portfolio. Security, we've added security cameras in the last few months as well at 18 of our mid to high-rise public housing properties. From a financial perspective, operations had a $1.5 million surplus, and capital activities at $13.1 million. And also, year over year, the net operating income improved by $11 million in public housing, $8.1 million in AHC, which is the Affordable Housing Communities. And that's mainly driven by lower maintenance costs and higher tenant revenue. As discussed in the last board meeting, we had our highest occupancy rate in public housing at 97.2. And then finally, on this slide, I wanted to highlight that for the first time in this organization's 88-year history, we now have a national credit rating that was issued by Standard & Poor's. So it's a huge accomplishment for the organization, and it's a testament to us last summer getting together and saying, what do we want to accomplish this fiscal year, given all the uncertainty at the organization and also in Washington as well. So it was done, and it was done through the leadership of Aaron and Diana and Tim and many others. And so this allows the organization now to leverage capital for the preservation of deeply affordable homes for our public housing residents. It also helps with new production. So it's a game changer for the organization. So we're really grateful to have earned this well-deserved rating. And we'll be talking in the coming months about how we're going to utilize it. But I wanted to acknowledge that in this slide. And then the second slide, just a few items. We brought 16 development projects to the board in the last 11 months. And then, of course, Snowden, our first self-developed project for seniors over 62 years of age, was finally placed in service. And that's something we're going to celebrate, I think it's next month at a grand opening. So we're looking forward to that. And with that, those are just a few highlights that I wanted to draw your attention to. And I'll toss it over to Ayana, who's going to kick it off with our fiscal year 26 goals.
Thank you so much. So we are doing our goals just a little bit differently as we are transitioning with the start of our strategic planning efforts. And I will start by saying,
I'm going to interrupt for 2 seconds. Nice job, staff, because given what we had to come out of and what we experienced during the COVID years, that, it was, I don't know that we would have seen these same results today if they didn't start when y'all started. That's huge. I did have one question with regards to the higher tenant revenue. Is that associated to the increase in vouchers? Was that increased dollar amounts to the vouchers, or is that, do you think, potentially due to people paying? People.
If you don't mind, Aaron's going to cover that in the quarterly financial
Perfect.
report.
Okay.
And go into detail.
Okay. But yeah, great job. So.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. So our mission continues to be the same. We are focused on improving the lives of our residents by providing quality, affordable housing and building sustainable, thriving communities. And as long as our impact is that we are having a high quality of life here in San Antonio where everyone is thriving, that is what we want to continue to do, no matter what or how our goals look and change. So what we wanted to do this year was focus on 3 high-level areas, which was organizational capacity building. And this encompasses what used to be Staff Thrive, as well as some of our residents focused objectives. So they're kind of interwoven now. So as you can see, we want to design and launch our Centennial Strategic Plan, which, as I mentioned, I'm very excited to say it started, and it literally is just starting. So it's very exciting, and we have a short road ahead of us to get a very big plan achieved, but we are ready and excited for that. We are going to modernize our resident customer service. We are developing and implementing an organizational-wide LMS and implementing organizational assessment results. And the next one is partnership and community building, and this blends together our community outcomes and our resident outcomes, expanding public-private partnerships, the reinstatement of our 501c3, and the introduction of our resident advisory board, as well as the Opportunity Home Alumni Association. And the last area that we want to focus on is this preservation and development. And this one, again, was part of other goals that we had through resident outcomes and community outcomes, but we've really focused and we really want to be intentional about preservation and development. So we are focusing on establishing and implementing our housing preservation and development strategy, which will include rental assistance demonstration. But as we go through this process and as we develop what this strategy will look like, again, as part of the strategic plan, but also as a standalone development plan, we want to ensure that we are still in alignment with the city's strategic housing plan. So again, we want to make sure that we're, again, part of the community, part of San Antonio, again, making sure everyone thrives. We want to apply for a Choice Neighborhoods grant for implementation, and we want to convert our new low-income housing tax credit community into permanent supportive housing, again, recognizing the need for different types of housing here in San Antonio. So those are the goals that we are aspiring to in this fiscal year. And I will now turn it over to Diana.
Hello, and thank you. I'm going to try my best not to speak as very much at all. I just wanted to, you guys, everyone knows Aaron Sladek, our Director of Finance, and Priscilla Segovia back here. Some of you remember her. She is our loan budget manager. She coordinates the entire budget for all 216 or so business units. So just want to thank the two of them for putting this all together, making it much easier for Michael and myself to review and provide feedback. So I'm going to talk about our federal funding trend. So at this point, as of last week, we have actually received funding notices for all 4 of these funding streams. So public housing, you could see, has a trend first upwards from 22 to 24, and then has a slight decrease in 25. And that is actually just not a funding cut, but it's a result of how the inflation factors were applied to the 2025 funding formula. So it was no impact. It wasn't brought on by the federal government. It's just a formulaic calculation, and it is a small decrease. And we applied a projected proration rate of 95%, which is how HUD has been funding us from January through May so far. But we will not get a final proration rate until usually October or November. So last year it was a little over 97%, so there still could be some upside to that. Public Housing Capital Fund, we just got our notice last week. It's up $200,000. It's now $17.2 million. Section 8 admin fees are $12.6 million for 2025, and that's basically flat. That also has a lower proration rate projected, which again, there could be some upside there towards the end of the year. And the one bright shining spot is the Housing Choice Voucher HAP subsidy. We were not expecting an increase, and we realized almost over $4 million in increase, 4% from 24 to 25. So that was really, really good news. And now to the next slide, just the bad news. So we all have been hearing about this presidential budget proposal. And in the past, of course, we didn't worry a lot about presidential budgets as they were just one person wish list. But I think there's a lot more concern this year that this may become reality. So this almost $27 billion cut represents about a 40+% decrease to all of HUD funding. And just to put it in perspective, all of public housing funding, including capital fund, is only $9 billion. So these are huge cuts. And it cuts all the traditional housing authority programs, public housing, cap fund, tenant-based vouchers, as well as project-based vouchers, as well as elderly and disabled housing. So we are watching this, we're listening, right? We're waiting for any word, and we'll be ready to present and probably update more often than finance committees. Once we hear something, we'll come regularly right to operations committee meetings and present updates as we receive them. Next slide. So we've been looking at this for several years now. This is our increasing HAP cost. And these increases are driven, they're required by HUD, right? So when payment standards in the area that increases, then we are required to bring these increases to the board. We are trying to maintain the 11,100 Housing Choice Vouchers families that we serve today. But you could see with these large increases, this is about a 40% increase from 22 to 25, that at some point, without cutting Housing Choice Voucher families, we may need to adjust payment standards downward, but we'll let Stephanie and Jose bring that to the board in a committee meeting if they decide that that is necessary, or if you decide that's necessary. Next slide.
That sounded like a punt, just FYI.
No pressure. So, our budget, these are our budget challenges and our budget drivers, right? So we do have, as always, federal funding uncertainty. We have increased Section 8 payment standards. We want to maintain the number of Housing Choice Vouchers families served. We need to control public housing operating costs. We need to address our $500 million public housing deferred maintenance issue. And we want to maintain current resident service levels, right? Those are the challenges. Our drivers are, we have to maintain our MTW substantially the same requirement to maintain our MTW status, which is important. And we want to maintain our resident satisfaction and safety, right? And we want to balance that with our available funding and our fiduciary responsibility related to that funding. We always have to follow all of our HUD regulations. We have our organizational reputation to consider, and we need, right, to continue to. Next slide. So to that, right, well, then we start talking about like what are our options and what are our recommendations. So our options are, to adjust public housing costs or services, right? So there's maintenance, mostly maintenance, and much smaller amounts in security and resident services. We can increase public housing rent collections. We can reduce resident service levels. We can reduce payment standards to landlords. We can reduce the number of Housing Choice Voucher families that we serve. And we can reduce funding for preservation and expansion of affordable housing. So as we went through all of those options, the recommendations we have made are built into the budget at this point, but again, are decided on by the board. So we were able to reduce the following public housing costs. We did adjust the maintenance staffing levels, and those staffing levels were adjusted just to the 2020 levels. There were some significant increases between 2021 and 2023. So Ruth and I got with Yvette Saldivar. Yvette works in operation support, and we did an analysis of maintenance staffing levels starting with the market, and then we provided adjusters for the number of bedrooms in public housing because they far outweigh the market, and the age of our public housing also far outweighs the market. So both of those adjusters provided about a 40% upside to maintenance staffing. And so Ruth got to work right away and did a really good job of adjusting her maintenance staffing accordingly. Security services were adjusted downward, but I think that we have made, Joanna has made great strides in enhancing security through technology and continues to do so. The unit make-ready costs were negotiated downward, and then the amazing maintenance team got together and standardized their maintenance supplies, which should lower costs. We haven't seen a lot of that trend yet, but we're hopeful. We are maintaining service levels for public house, for pest control and resident events, and for garbage pickup. But for garbage and bulk pickup, those costs continue to increase. Overage fees alone are some months approaching $50,000, and our costs are over $200,000 a month. So it's a huge dollar amount. And if there's anything we could do, and I think Jose has been working with his maintenance team again to try to address some of these costs and how to reduce it. We did increase public housing rent collections. Ruth and her team have already done an incredible job. From April 24 to April 25, they reduced receivables by $1.8 million. So they're already doing a great job. We're just encouraging them to continue that. We are maintaining HAP payments to the payment standards that are existing today, and we are proposing maintaining the 11,100 HCV families that we're currently serving. And we have included funding in the MTW slide, which comes later on, that Aaron will present, some additional dollars for preservation and expansion using MTW dollars for city housing bond match funds and acquisition of a couple of 15-year tax credit properties that'll go into Miranda's AHC portfolio. And now I'm going to turn it over to Aaron to talk about the numbers. Do you have any questions? I'm sorry, questions?
You're reducing security services, and that's one of the biggest things that when residents come to us, that's an issue to residents on the properties is security.
So I should have been more clear. I apologize. A lot of the security costs in the past are related to Firewatch and the elevator stuff. This should not impact that, right?
Okay.
Right. There are huge amounts. And what we've done for fiscal year 26 is actually created a totally separate account number for Firewatch and Elevator Watch so that we can show you that these are two different things. And one provides a service and one is just, emergency abatement, right?
So the security services will remain the same as they are right now, apart from.
They will be apart
from the Firewatch
we can
and the
report to you
Elevator
that
Watch.
way. We can provide you that information.
Right,
Yes.
thank you.
And just in context, I and Chairman Lopez also met to dive deeply into this budget. And, just for framing for the board, there is much more that we would love to do as an organization. And we are limited by a very restrictive amount of dollars. And so, we went line per line and feel pretty confident about the trade-offs and the commitment to those things that you're mentioning, like safety and whatnot, that have been issues. So just to name, we'd always love to do more. And also, we do not have the funds to do more. But these are our considerations for the board to be thinking about.
Yes, and thanks for the reminder. Thanks for meeting with us. There were several board members that met with us yesterday and went through the budgets. I appreciate you taking the time.
Yeah.
I'll turn it over to you.
My papers are going to blow away. Apologies for the giant wall of numbers here. I'm going to try to dissect this as best that I can. So this will be pretty familiar to you because this is the format that I bring this to each quarter when I provide the actual to budget comparison. Two distinct differences, really. The operating revenue, we're showing very condensed here just as a single line item. And then you'll notice before the grand total there, second to last column, the eliminations. That might be new to you. That's really just an accounting mechanism where we have to eliminate revenue and expenses between related entities. And that's done so as to not distort your financials and overstate your revenue or overstate your expenses. When I do bring those quarterly financials to you, it is net of the eliminations. I just do not show that distinctly, right, as a separate column. So these first three columns here, public housing, Section 8 in affordable housing communities, formerly Beacon, those are our core housing programs. The central office following those is the management arm for the federal programs. The management company for AHC is embedded within the AHC column. Community Development Initiatives is charged with coordinating resident services for the organization. And then we present a subtotal for operations. So when I do the quarterly reporting, I will usually refer to an operations segment total. And then following that is the real estate and capital segments, which we call capital activities. So diving into the actual numbers here, for public housing, we're showing or proposing for the budget 44.6 million in operating revenue. About 70% of that is operating subsidy, with the remaining 30% being tenant rental revenue. Their total operating expenses are 49.7 million. So their net operating loss is 5.1 million. They do have a little bit of interest income of 1.4, some 200,000 in interest expense related to their EPC loan, and some non-operating expense of 6.8 million. That's footnoted below. It's related to operating transfers to our partners. Some of the public housing properties are embedded in these tax credit partnerships, so we're obligated to transfer that funding to the partnerships. And there's some replacement and extraordinary items in that amount as well. So tallying that up, we do arrive at a 10.7 million deficit in public housing. You can see that we're proposing a 10.7 million in MTW block grant transfers to zero that out. That 10.7, you'll see on a later slide, is made up of 7.2 million in MTW draws from our HUD held fund reserves. And then the remaining 3.4 is actually transferred. You can see on the capital column, third to last, the negative 3.4, that's essentially the 20% of our 17 million CFP grant that we're permitted to use for public housing operations. Moving to Section 8, 153 million budgeted for operating revenue, 13.9 million that is admin fees, and 139 million is HAP revenue. Their total operating expenses are 152.6 million. We're showing a net operating income positive of 400,000, and their non-operating incomes tally up to another 200,000. So we're actually showing a surplus this year in Section 8 of 0.6 million. Last year, we showed a $1 million loss that we proposed funding out of MTW. So that's a 1.6 million positive swing in Section 8. So the 10.7, just for comparison, this last year, we budgeted a 14.6 million deficit. So there's a 3.9 million improvement in public housing as well. Moving to AHC, we're budgeting 51.5 million in operating revenue. Primary generator in this segment is tenant rental revenue. It's over 90% of that 51. The remaining balance of 4.7 consists of we do have about 5 project-based rental assistance properties, so there's some grant money coming to that portfolio as well, and then some operating subsidy for mixed finance properties. Again, their operating expenses tally up to 35.8 million, resulting in NOI of 15.7 million. Most of our debt is in this AHC portfolio, so you'll see they have by far the largest interest expense of 5.8 million. Like public housing, they also have some replacement items embedded in that 4.1 million net operating expense. So they arrive at a surplus of 6.9 million. That is compared to 5.3 last year. However, of that 6.9 million, there's 5.6 million. It's shown in the footnote number 2 below, because there is some principal payments. The principal portion of your debt, it flows through the balance sheet, not the income statement. So it's outside of operations, but still needs to be considered to look at their true surplus. Moving to central office, we've got operating revenue of 1.9 million, total operating expenses of 2.4 million. So we're showing a $500,000 net operating loss there. There is some interest income, so that yields them a deficit of about 300,000. That was also 1 million last year, so $700,000 improvement in central office as well budgeted. Moving to CDI, their operating revenue of 2.5 million mainly consists of HUD grants. They have total operating expenses budgeted of 4.8 million, resulting in a net operating loss of 2.3 million. We are proposing our other MTW use for operations to be 2.3 million to zero out the community development initiatives segment. Moving along to real estate, they have 5.8 million budgeted operating revenue. This consists generally of development fee revenue and bond issuer fees. This one gets a little weird with the timing because that development fee revenue is budgeted and earned as these projects are completed, but not necessarily collected in cash. Usually there is a mechanism for some of that, and I've seen usually 10% to be paid out of closing when we do a development deal. Typically, if the project is meeting all its milestones, a large chunk of that development fee will get paid from the equity partner through capital installments. And then there's typically always also a deferred component of the development fee that we may or may not collect. So these are 15-year tax credit partnerships. We have 15 years to try and collect on that fee through positive cash flow. So we monitor that very closely. We actually book an allowance against that every year just to get a true picture of what we're going to earn on the development fee side. Their expenses total up to 5.3 million, so they do have a $500,000 net operating income. This segment does have some investments, so they have 1.5 million budgeted for interest income, 0.3 million of non-operating expense, so they tally up to a surplus of 1.7 million, which is essentially flat with last year. And then finally, the last column, capital. This is the cost reimbursement grant, so you'll see in their non-operating income of 31.2 million, there's the capital grants income offset by a capital grants project transfer of 31.2 million. And then once again, you see that 3.4 being transferred out to the public housing segment. Next slide, please.
I have one question about this slide. I noticed on the CDI initiatives that the operating revenue is 2.5 and salaries and benefits is 3.3 million. Is that because the majority of what we are able to deliver, and this might not be a you answer, it might be somebody else, but what we're able to deliver is through services and programming that internal staff are delivering versus paying for different programs that are provided to Opportunity Home residents? Is our main mechanism delivery of programs and opportunities through staff?
And partnerships, but
Is partnerships then the other expenses 1.5?
so the
or
partnerships
is-
typically don't have a cost, right? Those are usually like in-kind type of
Okay.
relationships, correct?
And and potentially grants?
So the grants are going to be in the operating revenue. That 2.5 million is pretty much going to be, that's going to be grants.
To CDI?
And to CDI, well, to Opportunity Home, right? And then.
Yeah, but
and
for
then-
the purpose of
for the
CDI
purpose of-
activities?
Right, so those are typically 100%
Okay.
salary only grants,
Okay.
right? Yes, so any other types of costs are usually borne by the housing authority. So the 2.3 million is oversight, additional services that we do not have a grant for, and then maintenance and supplies of.
So it's safe to say, I'll give a little context for why I'm asking these questions. I'm using my own organization as context. I receive dollars. I have a choice to either pay for services or hire staff internally that delivers services, right? If we have a goal to increase reading literacy or something, we might hire someone who delivers services, or we might do something ourselves. The way I read this budget, I'm making the interpretation that most of the opportunities we provide through CDI initiatives, the big costs behind them are staff.
Yes, ma'am.
Delivered internally.
These are prescribed by HUD. You
Okay.
have to apply for them. They need to be employees. They employ they'll give you, based on the number of units you have or elderly units, they will give you like X number of staff members for, right? So
Okay.
not a lot of options
Got it.
in this type of grants.
Not
Right.
super flexible. Okay.
Mhm,
Thank you
right.
so much.
Okay.
And just for the board, because we are going through a lot of content, I'm not expecting anyone to wait till the very end to ask questions. So, please feel free to stop Aaron and ask any questions that are
All right, I
relevant.
get carried away. So this is just a visual representation of the last slide. This is, we call it consolidated sources, but it's synonymous with our projected revenue. You can see that our highest revenue source is Section 8 HAP funding, followed by rental revenue. So I think the key takeaway really from this slide is that about 75% of our funding is federal. So that'd be our Section 8 HAP, operating subsidy, capital grants, Section 8 admin. So yeah, it can't be understated that we're very dependent on federal funding at this organization. Next slide, please. So this is the consolidated uses or projected expenses. You'll notice that this is a little bit higher. This is 301.3 compared to the previous slide. That's 0.7 million or $700,000 difference is just due to, can you go back 2 slides, please? So you'll just notice that ties to the overall deficit, right? Total column, surplus or deficit, negative 700,000. So that we don't show the MTW block grant transfers in the consolidated sources and uses. It's sort of outside of that. Let me jump forward back to the expenses. Thank you. So again, HAP expense is the highest use at 139 million. Salaries and benefits follows that at 56.6 million. We have maintenance and replacement items, 29.9 million. Capital grant projects is about 10% or 31.2 million. Insurance, I do want to note insurance that at 7.4 million, that is higher quite a bit. That one stuck out to me. I did want to mention we do have a lot of rising insurance costs. We did budget 5.4 million last year, so there's $2 million swing on that, and that is considered more of a fixed cost, not something that we can adjust as easily as some of these other items we discussed, like resident services and security and things of that nature. Next slide, please. This is our public housing 5-year capital plan. So the 17 million in the first row there, that is our capital fund program grant. We are just projecting that out at 17 million flat. We would anticipate and hope that we get, inflationary increases at a minimum on that. These other budgets are, these other grants are more competitive. These are competitive grants. So we have lead paint grant of 9.3 million, a housing hazard grant of about 5.2 million, federal earmark community project funding grant of 2.6 million, and then finally some safety and security grants totaling just under 200,000. And you can see that we have our proposed uses following the sources. The biggest bucket there is the 26.4 million, and that really stems from our physical needs assessment that we had done around 2022. The public housing operations support, you notice that is just 20% of the CFP amount, 20% of the 17 million. And then administration is 10%. So that's what HUD permits us to use from the CFP grant is 20% for operations support for public housing and 10% for administration of the program. CFFP loan payment, this thing is finally almost paid off. That loan originated in 2006, and it was to essentially advance the modernization of 8 public housing properties. That loan is going to be fully paid off, I believe, in February of 2026. So that's good news. We'll have some additional money to use for capital needs. And then we have 1 million earmarked for intrusion protection security cameras, and then 200,000 apiece for the remaining items of inspector salaries, professional fees and permitting, and environmental reviews. Next slide, please. And this is our AHC 5-year capital plan. This one is a little bit more straightforward because you can see that the proposed sources are tied one for one for the uses here. So we have City of San Antonio housing bond funding of 6.3 million. That's earmarked for 5 properties. This is all, by the way, provided in your binders, all the detail behind what properties and what kind of work is being done, but this is just a high-level overview. We have MTW funds of about 4.7 million, and that's tagged to Ravello and Mid-Crown interior and exterior rehab. We have a congressional grant of 850,000 that'd be used for Towering Oaks and Cortland Heights exterior rehab. We have the Housing Trust funding of 650,000 that'll be deployed for Dietrich Road exterior rehab. And then we have about 4.1 million in reserves right now that we would like to utilize for 6 AHC properties, various replacement repairs. And then you can see there that we do have another 2.1 million for 8 properties, and that is unfunded, at this point in time. Next slide. These are our capital technology needs. Last year, we had to implement a new GASB statement number 96. That one dealt with subscription-based information technology arrangements, or SEBITAs. This essentially says that if you have any kind of software, and we know that pretty much any kind of software you get in this day and age requires a subscription, many even things that are not right technology things require subscriptions these days. But basically anything that requires that subscription has a term of over 12 months and meets $100,000 capitalization criteria, that now goes onto your balance sheet, and then it's amortized over the life of that subscription term rather than just being immediately expensed when we pay for it. So the ask there is, or proposed uses there are 743,000 for these 4 different software licenses. Next slide. And these are our sources and uses of MTW funds. We're projecting about 67 million in June, and we're going to deploy, like I mentioned on the consolidated budget slide, where the ask is 7.2 million for public housing operations, 2.3 million for community development initiatives, and these are really can be thought of as draws from more of operating reserves. These other uses is where we start to get more strategic and thinking about how we want to deploy these reserves. So we do have 35.5 million marked for investment in public housing repositioning. We have an $8 million earmarked for investment in MTW units, a tax credit, and affordable housing community properties. So we're looking at bringing in potentially 2 properties that fiscal year. They're tax credit properties that are nearing their 15 years. So we want to try and bring those into the AHC portfolio. We have 5 million marked for Mid-Crown and Ravello City Bond matching. Another 5 million for the North and South Pond development at Victoria Commons. And finally, 4 million marked for an additional investment in the Snowden development.
I do have one question on this slide, and you may not be able to answer it, but the phrasing of the sources or the proposed use of the MTW funds to support public housing, where it's, quote, in spite of significant efforts to control costs. Is that a HUD mandated explanation?
I want to say no, yeah.
No, I think it's represented in the
Reality.
year-over-year numbers, right? There's been a lot of effort around controlling costs.
Right, and I agree with the assertion. I was just wondering if that's language that HUD asked us to use as we're talking about the application of MTW. All right, thank you.
My limited updated language.
All right, if there are no more questions, I'm going to turn it over to Priscilla to go over the personnel count. Thank you.
Hello, good afternoon, commissioners. So this slide goes over our personnel count. And as you can see, comparing 25 to 26, we are decreasing about 90 positions. So it appears this reduction in positions is a direct outcome of the ongoing review process that commenced in June of 2024. So for public housing, we are decreasing by 37 positions. Out of those 37, 33 are maintenance positions. So since 2021, the positions in our portfolio have increased, even though the units we manage has remained consistent through the years. So we're going ahead and adjusting those back to 2020 levels. And this review process is going to continue to be ongoing and is going to be led by Jose and his team. In AHC, we are reducing our positions by 22. 10 of those are a direct elimination based on the sale of 2 underperforming properties. The other 12 were based on a completed cost-saving analysis and a reorganization of the portfolio. The Real Estate Services Department will gain 14 positions. This is just a consolidation of all real estate activities into one line of business. And for the other 3 departments, Operation Support, Property Management, and Central Office, those net decreases were due to additions, realignments, and overhead costs that were reevaluated as part of this cost-saving initiative analysis. A breakdown of these positions is located in your budget binder. Next slide, please.
I have one question on this slide. How many of the 90 are currently vacant? 38 of the 90 are currently vacant. So in the next couple of months, this is really going to be seen as a reduction in force. No?
Can you repeat that question?
My question was, how many are vacant? And you said 30 of the 90 are vacant?
38 of the 90 are vacant.
Of the 90 are vacant, so less than
I'm
half.
sorry, not necessarily. No. Not necessarily. We have 38 vacancies, but it's not necessarily these positions.
Yes, my question is, I'll just kind of zoom up to what the question is. Are we anticipating a
None.
major reduction in force? 90 people is a
None.
lot of people.
None.
Okay.
All of these are completed. These positions have been removed from Janie's
Correct.
ability to fill them, which is why she's only
Got it.
seeing
Okay, that's
30 some odd.
helpful. Okay,
Yes.
that's a much different, then I have no more
Yes.
questions. Okay.
Next slide, please. So this is our organizational structure. As you can see, it starts with you, the board, goes on to our president, CEO, all our officers, and all the departments they oversee. Next slide, please. Questions? Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah. Are there any other questions on this item while I find my place in the agenda? If there are no other questions, then I am calling for a motion to approve Resolution 6763. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Resolution passes. We're now moving on to discussion items. Update and discussion regarding the quarterly finance report. Aaron Slottick, thank you for coming back up.
Yeah, you're not done with me yet. Sorry. More numbers, right?
Yes.
We actually start on slide 2, page 2. Okay, so I'm going to be providing an update for the 9 months ended, financial performance for the 9 months ended March 31st, 2025. So once again, we're going to present this and show the operations separately from the capital activities. Can we jump ahead to the total for operations? I mean, that'll work. You can leave both up like that. That's fine. Fine with me. So we're pleased really to report strong performance across both segments for March. Operations posted a $1.5 million surplus before non-cash items. This exceeded the budget by $1.4 million. And the capital segment reported a $13.1 million surplus before non-cash items, and this beat the budget by $7.9 million. So I'm looking onto the left here at the operations total. we can see that total operating revenue was 1.3 million above budget. That was despite tenant revenue falling short by 2.7 million. That was primarily due to low occupancy rates ranging between 45 and 73% for a few affordable housing community properties. The overall portfolio averaged 82% physical occupancy and 85% economic occupancy. So we are seeing some improvements overall in that portfolio. That unfavorable variance was offset by a favorable variance in grants revenue of 2.7 million. And that stemmed from HUD shortfall funding that we received in January. So the HUD shortfall funding program, if you're not aware of it, it's a program that HUD designed around 2021. And the aim of that program is to try to bring struggling PHA's public housing operating reserves up to 3 months of operating reserves. We have applied for that funding. We have to do an application. We've applied for that each year since that program's inception, but this was the first time that we were awarded some of that funding. It's in the past, I don't know what it's always been, but the past few years it's been 25 million. So it gets depleted very quickly, and it's done in a tiered system. So usually that money has been exhausted historically before we've been able to be a recipient of any of that. Total operating expenses were 8.6 million under budget in operations. And we realized approximately 4.6 million in savings and salaries and benefits across all departments. 2.1 million under budget in maintenance and repairs. That was chiefly in public housing. And then we had $3.2 million in other expenses favorable. And that was particularly in technology and general administration costs. It is important to note that this 1.5 million operational surplus was heavily supported by MTW funding. We did have key allocations of 5.7 million to pay off some AHC debt, and we utilized 3.4 million in public housing capital fund program monies to support operations as well. And up here on the right for the capital segment, we do see that total operating revenue was $527,000 under budget. This was mainly due to lower bond issuer fees than anticipated. However, this was offset by a $1.6 million reduction in expenses, and that was largely due to lower consulting costs. Next slide, please. To the left is our balance sheet. You can see that total assets and deferred outflows of resources increased by 22.1 million. That was primarily due to some new acquisitions. We acquired the San Juan 1 and Alhambra apartments. Additionally, we did have some rehab work that was capitalized for Victoria Plaza that drove that increase. There was also a $16.4 million increase in non-current assets. That was driven by loan advances and increases in development fees receivable. Total liabilities and deferred inflows of resources increased by 5.8 million. That reflected higher trade payables, loan draws, and attorney liability. And then you can see our net position increased by approximately 16.3 million, or 4.29% increase. Next slide, please. All right, can we go to the presentation?
Way too much excitement there.
I mean, at least they have color. Come on.
Yes. Well, we still are, but it's much better. Is this what you're looking for?
We are. So this is a comparison of, this shows actual and budget for March 2024 and March 2025. So we see that operating revenue was essentially flat year over year, looking at the actuals here. We had higher HAP and tenant revenue, but those were offset by lower miscellaneous revenue, and that's primarily driven by lower development fees. Next slide, please. And then here's our consolidated operating expenses. We can see year to year, March 24 to March 25, we had a 2.6% decline, and that was driven primarily by reduced ordinary maintenance costs. Next slide, please. This is our debt to equity ratio. We remain steady at 0.38. That's a great number. We try and stay under 1. Typically, we don't see very drastic shifts in this number, but yeah, 0.38 is a very attractive number to creditors, investors, anyone interested in you having, in your organization having a good financial health. Next slide, please. And this is current ratio. We see this one fluctuate a little bit more often than the equity ratio. We do have a decrease here of 2.69 to 1.9, but we're really just looking to be at about 1.5. So yeah, this is still a very good ratio. Like this could well be over 2, or 2 could be 2.5 next time we look at this again. Like I said, it can change very quickly with paying off debt, taking on debt, money's coming in for development fees. Like this one can fluctuate, but yeah, we're happy to still see we're at still at 1.9. Next slide. And these are our moving to work expenditures. This remains unchanged from last quarter, other than I believe the Snowden development funding went up about, I want to say about 100,000. Everything else was just to carry forward from the previous quarter. You can see that we did draw the 3.4 million from the capital fund program to support the public housing operating shortfall. And then the other 2 big items on here, of course, are the Alhambra and San Juan Square. We used about 5.7 million to pay off their debt. Next slide. Yeah, so let's talk about cash real quick. So we're required to bring a cash investment report to you. You don't have to go to unless you can find it. It usually follows the highlights. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then can we go to the numbers? Yeah. So we did have an increase in our total cash investments to 17.2 million from the previous quarter. The majority of this, or 13.5 million, just stemmed from a shift in the timing of our Section 8 housing assistance payments. So as I mentioned earlier, the OMB ordered a temporary pause in federal funding back in January 2025. So because of that, we've made a programmatic change, and we're now dispersing payments to landlords only after we've received that funding from HUD. So typically that would occur within the first 3 business days of the month.
What's the average amount of a payment distribution that we get?
HAP,
Is it under $4 million?
no, it's like 10 million.
So our line of credit kind of helps with that, but I know you all mentioned that was like one place we might go to for relief if needed, but in comparison with a typical drawdown.
Part of the shutdown plan is that we would prioritize pretty much all of their operations above landlord
Okay.
payments, right?
Okay.
And right, with
Yeah.
the general public understanding that
Yeah,
we didn't
we're in a
receive-
bind.
Right.
Okay.
Thank you. And I'm not sure if Michael has shared that plan with you guys in the past, but we could certainly do that.
Okay, thank you.
The last one.
Thank you.
So right, so of that 17.2 million increase, a lot of that was timing, the 13.5. We did have an increase in public housing unrestricted cash of a net 2.3 million, and that was a result of receiving that shortfall funding I mentioned earlier. And then finally, we received 1.3 million as a reimbursement from the city of San Antonio for the Victoria Plaza roof replacement project. And I just wanted to add a few items here. I know you're always mentioning the so what, now what. So just a few strategic considerations I wanted to put out there, things for us to be mindful of and continue thinking about. First of all, the occupancy challenges in the AHC portfolio remain a concern. As I showed you in the budget presentation, their main revenue generator is that tenant revenue, right? So improving those occupancy rates is essential for replenishing their reserves. and ensuring long-term sustainability of that portfolio. I know that Miranda later today is going to bring you for consideration. We're going to look at divesting of some properties, some underperformers, and then we're going to look at taking on some very high-performing properties, the ones that are sitting in that 95 to 97% realm of occupied. So that should help a lot to help replenish the reserves, make them sustainable. Like I said, MTW funding, right, remains critical. We can see that we're still utilizing that as kind of an operating reserve, right, to support core operations. We do need to be mindful of how we continue to use that funding strategically. And then finally, I've shown you a lot of favorable expense variances through this third quarter of the year, but we do need to be potential of spikes in the fourth quarter and as well as into the next fiscal year, right, that cost control.
On the potential spikes piece, I know, when the pandemic hit, we had lots of unanticipated spikes on costs of materials and supply chain issues and all of that. It seemed like I don't know if it really stabilized or we just got used to like the new normal. Have we seen another spike related to tariffs and, other things that we know that are happening within the government? Or is that mainly stabilized? Like, are we still kind of where we
I don't know
were
if the tariffs thing is so new, right? I don't know if we've seen the
in
reality.
terms of like cost of materials and things?
Totally. The earnings call from Home Depot, right? They said they weren't necessarily going to be raising prices, and they're one of our biggest suppliers,
Okay.
right, for materials. So.
Okay, great. Thank you. Any other questions on the internal report?
Thank you.
All right, thank you so much. Quarterly finance report, sorry. We are going to move on next to the quarterly internal audit report. Okay, great. Sorry, I'm reading my highlighted piece here. Board, you have a quarterly internal audit report that was in your packet. Are there any questions related to this report? Oh, sorry.
She wasn't panicking. You know what? Maybe we now want to hear it.
We'd like a presentation. Are there any questions on that report that you received? Okay, great. Thank you so much. Woo. It is 2:18. I am officially adjourning the Finance Committee meeting and passing it over for the next committee meeting, operations.
I'd like to take a 5-minute break before we go into the next meeting so people can take a bathroom break if they need to or get something to drink. Thank you.
To leave. Oh.
switching now. Hello and welcome to Opportunity Home San Antonio's Operations and Real Estate Committee meeting. The time is 2:41. Please note this meeting will be recorded in its entirety. Would you like me to conduct roll call?
Yes.
Okay, I'll begin by conducting Commissioner roll call. We have our committee chair, Gilbert Casillas,
Here.
board chair, Gabriel Lopez,
Here.
Barbara Unkama Burford, Dalia Contreras,
Here.
Estrellita Garcia Diaz,
Here.
Janet Garcia, Leila Powell, Valerie Carrillo, Board of Commissioners Attorney,
Here.
acting, President and CEO Michael Reyes.
Here.
We also have an interpreter. Look at the back of the room should you need their support. The time is now 2:42 p.m. You may call the meeting to order.
The Board of Commissioners or its committee may hold a closed meeting pursuant to Texas Government Code 551.071-076 for consultation concerning attorney-client matters, real estate, litigation, personnel, and security matters. The Board or committee reserves the right to enter into closed meeting at any time. Do we have any citizens to be heard?
Citizens signed up to speak.
This time I'll move into individual item number 3, consideration appropriate action regarding Resolution 6768, authorizing the award of contracts for firewall services to Aventus Private Security, other Blue Star Security LLC, AABE, WBE, HUB, Fast Guard Services LLC, AABE, and SOML Solutions LLC for an annual cumulative amount not to exceed $2 million for a period of 1 year, with the option to renew up to 4 additional one-year terms. George Ayala, Director of Procurement, and Domingo Ibarra, the Director of Security.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. So today I have a couple of items for you. The first one is Resolution 6768, which deals with Firewatch services. We are requesting your approval for the Resolution 6768. This will authorize us to award a contract for Firewatch service to Aventus Private Security, Blue Star Security LLC, Fast Guard Services LLC, and SOML Solutions LLC. The annual total amount would not exceed $2 million for 1 year, and with the option to renew up to 4 additional one-year terms. As you might know, these services are required on an as-needed basis for Firewatch as a temporary measure to ensure continuous and systematic surveillance of the building or part of it by qualified individuals. This job is to identify and control fire hazards, detect any early signs of unwanted fires, raise an alarm, and notify the fire department. With regards to the procurement process, we issued an invitation for bids on March 28 of 2025. This actually closed on April 23rd, 2025. It was published on our e-procurement website. It was also published on the Heartbeat and directly solicited to 31 vendors. After the conclusion, we did receive 6 responses, but 2 were deemed non-responsive. These solicitations were evaluated on purchase price, the bidder's reputation, the quality of goods and services, and how they meet our needs, the long-term cost, and any other relevant factors dictated in the solicitation document. At the conclusion, we reviewed and we evaluated these particular responses. The staff is recommending that we award to the vendors that I mentioned. With regards to the financial impact, the services are previously provided under these services, as mentioned before, were provided under the security services contract. To give an idea of the past spending, it is approximately $430,000 in 2022 and over $1.9 million in 2023. So with this being said, we are anticipating that this might be, is not to exceed $2 million. This will be funded through insurance proceeds, the property's operating budget, and any available reserves as well. And Domingo is here in case you want to ask him any technical questions regarding the services.
I might add, Commissioners, the reason we need 4 is that this is time sensitive. So whenever we do have a requirement for fire watch, we need to be able to get a response, and we need the flexibility to be able to go from one vendor to the next, just in case they don't have anybody available. And subject to your questions.
Do we have any questions?
Thank you.
Being no questions, do I hear a motion for approval?
So moved.
So,
We have a motion. Do I have a second?
second.
Motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Same sign. Motion carries. Item number 4, consideration appropriate action regarding Resolution 6767, authorizing the award of contracts for boiler and chiller maintenance, repair, and as-needed replacement services to Airstream General Construction Company, Incorporated, ABA Airstream Heating and Air Conditioning, DBE, HABE, MBE, SBE, Section 3 Business, Premier Comfort Service Company, Incorporated, Texas Chiller Systems LLC, and Train Company for an annual cumulative amount not to exceed $2 million for a period of 1 year, with the option to renew up to 4 additional 1-year terms. George Ayala, Director of Procurement, Hector Martinez, Senior Director of Construction Services, and Ruth Bautista, Director of Public Housing.
Good afternoon again, Commissioners. So this item is we're asking your approval for Resolution 6767. This would authorize us to award contracts for boiler and chiller maintenance, repair, and as-needed replacement service for the 4 companies you mentioned, Chair. We are asking for this for a not to exceed amount of $2 million for a 1-year period with the option to renew to up to 4 additional 1-year terms. As you might know, these services are needed to perform critical services at various communities. This includes maintenance on a quarterly, semi-annual, and annual basis. The goal is to improve our equipment and operate it efficiently and minimize breakdowns. With regards to the financial impact, the solicitation process, this particular solicitation was advertised on March 24th and concluded on April 15th. We did advertise in our regular procurement sites, our procurement site, the Heartbeat, and it was directly solicited to 58 vendors. At the conclusion of this, we did receive 4 responses, and they were evaluated on our standard evaluating criteria, which is listed there. At this time, we're recommending that we award the 4 highest rated vendors. And if you have any questions regarding the technical aspect, Mr. Martinez is here to answer any questions that you all have. Just real quick, the financial impact, we are anticipating not to exceed $2 million. This will be funded from property operating budgets, available reserves, and capital fund project grants as well.
Thank you, George. Good afternoon, Commissioners. This is an important contract, and it allows us as an agency to quickly address the chiller and boiler equipment we have throughout our agency. So chiller equipment is directly related to air conditioning, although boilers provides both comfort heat and domestic hot water for people to be able to take a comfortable bath or shower. I consider comfort heat to be a life safety issue. So this allows us to maintain, repair, replace, and preventatively maintain our critical equipment. And so I thought, actually, if you don't mind, this would be a good time to introduce Sonny Garcia. He's our facilities manager. He's our singular facilities manager for the whole agency. He specializes in building major systems and equipment such as boilers and chillers, such as elevators, fire protection. So Sonny will be closely involved. I thought it would be a good opportunity for y'all to meet our facilities manager, for him to be here, and to meet the board as well. So I'd be happy to answer any technical questions if there aren't any.
Do we have any questions? Being no questions, do I hear a motion for approval?
A motion we approve.
We have a motion. Do I hear a second?
Second?
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Going to item number 5, consideration appropriate action regarding Resolution 6725, ratifying the award of a contract for Cottage Creek Apartments, asphalt and concrete improvements to Prestige Building Group LLC, HABE, for an amount not to exceed $1,062,600. George Ayala, Director of Procurement, Hector Martinez, Senior Director of Construction Services.
There we go. So with regards to the solicitation process, we originally issued a solicitation back in January 24th of 2025, which was an invitation for bid. This closed February 10th, 2025. As you all might recall, we asked board contracts over his of $250,000, as long as it was for city funds and congressional funding as well. So this particular project does fall into that category. This particular project has already been started. Just bringing in accordance to that resolution that allowed our president and CEO the authority to engage in these contracts. We are bringing this back to the board. We did go through a formal process. The process was the same as we go through with every other item that we bring to the board. We did solicit, we did go through the same process of posting it publicly, going ahead and contacting 671 vendors, awarding it based on the criteria that is standard for our solicitations. And so after the conclusion, we did decide to award to Prestige Building Group LLC. This particular project is not expected to exceed $1,062,600, which includes a contingency of 15% of $138,600. It will be funded by the city bond funds and any available reserves if needed. And this does include the removal of construction, reconstruction, and alteration of existing ADA ramps, sidewalks, driveways, curbs, car stops, the asphalt, and any striping and that is needed. We do anticipate that this project will last about 120 days, and Mr. Martinez will elaborate on the construction.
Thank you, George. As George mentioned, this is a bond-funded project from the city of San Antonio. It's in our AHC portfolio. This work at Cottage Creek that the city funded included 2 scopes of work: HVAC replacement, which is approaching completion right in time for the hot weather, and I think the people there are going to be very appreciative. It's going to also lower our energy consumption with more efficient, code-compliant air conditioning. But we always like to do paving and streets and parking lots at the end of a project when all the heavy equipment is done driving on and off. So when we leave the project, we have a fresh new parking lot. This project does call for a 2-inch asphalt mill and overlay, restriping, new signage. It's going to allow us to bring the property up to code as far as accessibility. The city was really, they emphasized universal design aspects of construction, which is in relation to accessibility. And so being able to restripe the property better, put signage, make sure we have all the required handicap parking in the parking lots is going to go a long way towards meeting those goals. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions? Being no questions, do I hear a motion for Resolution 6725?
So moved.
We have a motion. Do I hear a second?
Second?
Okay, with a motion and a second, do I hear approval? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Resolution 6725 carries to the board meeting. Item 6, consideration appropriate action regarding Resolution 6770, adopting the updated Housing Authority of the City of San Antonio, Texas, AKA Opportunity Home San Antonio Procurement Policy. George Ayala, Director of Procurement.
So today we're seeking your consideration and appropriate action on Resolution 6770, which will adopt the updated Housing Authority of the City of San Antonio, Texas, also known as Opportunity Home Procurement Policy. Our current procurement policy was approved by the board back in October 8th of 2020. We're now recommending some additional revisions. These changes ensure our policy complies with federal, state, and local laws and regulations. It also aims to provide consistency, transparency, fairness, accountability, and oversight in our process. Furthermore, it is designated to optimize competition and foster economic opportunities for small, minority, and women-owned businesses, as well as Section 3 and targeted Section 3 residents. For the most part, we are codifying many procurement-related items that have already been adopted. So these changes won't significantly impact our procurement operations. So with regards to the proposed changes, we do have three different key changes that have been already adopted by resolutions prior to this. One is the first change is the delegated authority. We're clarifying the contracting officer authority and delegation process. So currently, the president and CEO is our contracting officer. The contracting officer can delegate that authority to one member of the staff. We are just allowing our contracting officer to go ahead and delegate it to additional members if need to. This will be done in writing in case we do need that. We're making a distinction between amendments to the policy, which the board approved on the operation of procedures. How are we going to take things to the board? Anything over $250,000, any expenditures, the process that it's going to be taken, what do we have to bring to the board? What are the requirements in our resolutions? Additionally, IT and fleet purchases, these have already been approved. We just enacting them in our procurement policy. Basically, is just defining the process that we need to do in order for us to approve IT and fleet purchases. And also, we're adding minor changes into our ethics policies. So the delegation of authority, like I mentioned, we're referencing who is the contracting officer and who can the contracting officer delegate to. We are also having the expenditures, the board approval of $250,000 under $250,000 that can be approved by the president and CEO as well. So when it comes to the board approval, and this is something that we wanted to focus on, this is saying that in resolution 6023, previously approved by the board, we did give the president and CEO the permission to sign anything under $250,000. That anything else would have to be brought to the board. So anything over $250,000, we're outlining the things that we're asking that we need to bring. So the first thing that we are asking is that we're gonna outline the estimated total expenditures and the source of funding. That was a request that was made by the board, and we think that it's a good idea to bring that to the board and let you guys know how we are budgeting these items. The description of goods and services or construction, the summary of the procurement process, and the justification and the alignment of the Opportunity Homes goals. So these are all the things that we currently are doing, that we're presenting to you all. The main difference is that we're asking your permission to state our expenditures based on last year's money, not what we anticipate to utilize this year, but based on actual numbers. So the difference is when you have an annual contract, when you put a not to exceed amount, it limits us on what we can do. Like, let's say, for example, we have an HVAC project and we cap it at a $2 million price. This would limit us in the utilization of that contract. So we would actually have to incur another solicitation process for that specific project. So that will put us 2 to 3 months behind on completing that project. So if we are allowed to have an estimated amount rather than a not to exceed amount, it would allow us to competitively bid those particular projects within that bid. So it is just a way of us expediting the process. This is a common practice that has been done in the city of San Antonio. I know for instance, in Northside Independent School District, which is my previous employer, and several other government agencies that we've done in, that I've worked in the past. So this is a common practice not to put a not to exceed amount on those annual contracts. We will, however, still continue to put an exceed amount on project-based contracts, like you saw, for example, in one of the items before with the concrete. We had a not to exceed amount because we know what the amount of the project is, and we actually included a contingency amount that can allow us to any unforeseen expenditures. So there's going to be two kinds of different things. One is for the annual contracts, which is an estimated amount, which is controlled by the annual budget, by the respective what's it called, department's budget, and then you'll have the not to exceed amount, which when it's project based. Any questions on that part?
Any questions?
Okay.
With there being no questions, do I hear a motion for approval?
So moved.
We have a motion. Do I hear a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Resolution 6770 moves to the board meeting. Item number 7, consideration appropriate action regarding Resolution 6774, authorizing the award of a contract for Amazon Business to Amazon.com Services LLC through Omni Partners, a nationwide purchasing cooperative, for an annual cumulative amount not to exceed $2 million for a period of 1 year with the option to renew up to 4 additional one-year terms. George Ayala.
So this particular resolution, as you mentioned, is asking for your permission to authorize an award of a contract to online marketplace to Amazon.com Services LLC. This is a not to exceed amount of $2 million. So this is the exact example of what we were talking about. So when we put an annual amount, it doesn't mean that we're going to go up to that amount. It's just a dollar figure. So as you all may recall, in April 6th of 2022, we did receive authorization from the board to award a contract that expires in May of 2025. So we would like to continue utilizing this particular service with Amazon Marketplace. It allows our staff to access a wide variety of products from suppliers across many categories like display products, IT products, maintenance, repair and operations, office accessories, and supplies. This online solution offers a more dynamic pricing structure, helping us ensure that we continually get the best value for our organization. Benefits include things as free business delivery, the ability to create policy rules to guide employees on how to purchase items, and tools to analyze spending patterns. As I mentioned, this is a not to exceed $2 million. And it is done through a procurement process that is identified by the U.S. Housing and Urban Development Department, which allows us to piggyback of a cooperative agreement, as long as the process has already been done and it meets our criteria as defined in our procurement policy. Any questions?
Any questions? No. Being no questions, do I hear a motion?
So moved.
We have a motion. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Resolution 6774 moves to the board meeting. Item number 8, consideration appropriate action regarding Resolution 6775, authorizing the award of a contract for maintenance, repair, and operations, MRO supplies, and related services to W.W. Granger Incorporated through Omni Partners, a nationwide purchasing cooperative, for an annual amount not to exceed $1 million for a period of 1 year with the option to renew up to 4 additional one-year terms. George Ayala.
So this particular, Commissioners, this particular resolution is exactly the same as the Amazon. We did utilize a competitive procurement process through a cooperative that we're piggybacking off. This particular is for Granger, which supplies a lot of our maintenance and operation supplies, such as parts and air conditioner parts and things of that matter. We did bring this previously in April of 2022, at the same time that we brought Amazon. And our award or our approval does expire at the end in this month. So that's why we're bringing it back, because we think it's a good partner to have and then a good supplier to have on hand in case we do need certain parts that we are not able to get with other vendors. Bless you. The financial impact, it is at $1 million, not to exceed $1 million. This will be funded by the department's operating and capital budgets as well. And like I said, it is for maintenance and operation supplies. Any questions?
Any questions?
No.
No questions, do I hear a motion?
Motion.
We have a motion, do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Resolution 6775 carries to the board meeting. Thank you, George. Item number 9, consideration appropriate action regarding Resolution 6772, authorizing a capital contribution from SAHFC to SAHFC Josephine Lender LLC for the purposes of making a loan to 120 Josephine Investors LLC for the Josephine Apartments project and other matters in connection therewith. Diana Fielder, Executive Vice President, Chief Financial Officer.
Good afternoon. So many of you toured this property a few weeks ago, and so here's the overview, right? It's a PFC deal. I guess it's Pearl adjacent, right? Total development cost $88 million. Development partner was Lind, and the management company's Lind. Next slide. 259 units. 26 units at 60% or less AMI, 104 at 80% or less AMI, and 129 at market. The percentage completion is 99%. They are almost 57% leased, 40% occupied. Next slide. So this is a lot of words. So you approved the partnership in 2020. In 2024, Lind asked us to loan them some money. We negotiated an interest rate at 16% at the time for $3 million. They've had some additional cost overruns on construction, and they are asking us for an additional $1.5 million. Again, same terms and at an interest rate of 16%. We have loaned them money on the Petrenko property, two tranches on the Petrenko property, and they've already paid one of those tranches off. So we're asking for approval to loan them an additional $1.5 million.
On the Petrenko property, it was like 12%, wasn't it?
18.
Oh, even better. No questions, I make a motion to approve this.
How many questions?
No questions? All right, do I hear a motion?
So moved.
We have a motion, do I hear a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Resolution 6772 moves to the board meeting.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Diane. Item number 10, consideration appropriate action regarding Resolution 6760, authorizing the San Antonio Housing Facility Corporation and San Antonio Housing Development Corporation to approve resolutions authorizing the preliminary actions related to the resyndication or restructuring of the San Juan Square Apartments project. Miranda Castro, Chief Asset Management Officer.
So respectfully, I am requesting to do items 10 through 12 in one presentation, if that's fine.
Okay.
Am I doing my own clicker? No, don't make me do my own clicker. Okay, thank you. Okay, so these San Juan 1, 2, and then San Juan Square is a cluster of properties that were developed in conjunction with NRP. They were started in 2008 and they finished up in 2014. There's a total of 539 units. There is a mixture of public housing, project-based voucher, and home units, as well as other LIHTC units. What I'm coming to you to request is I have evaluated these properties, and they are best highest use is to probably do a resyndication of some sort. And so I want your approval to start on that process. I have brought other items to the board to speak about the distressed nature of some of these properties, and I think that this is going to be the solution for that. And so I am requesting permission to move forward on that work. And so these are photos of the properties and then the map of the campus, essentially.
That's for all three properties.
Yes, it would be all three properties, and I intend to resyndicate them as a campus property. The other caveat that I want to put in there is I also intend to move the public housing units out as a repositioning, because I think it's the most advantageous way to go about it to not have our partnerships do public housing. They do a lot of things well, and public housing isn't one of them.
Agreed. Do I have any questions? No questions, so I hear a motion for items number 10, 11, and 12.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor of resolution 6760, 6761, 6762, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Same sign. 6762, move to the board meeting.
Fantastic. So I have also the same request for items 13 and 14. So this again is going to be a request to move forward on an RFP to resyndicate the phase 1 and 2 of the Sutton Oaks 1 and then the park at Sutton Oaks. I did just bring in a prior meeting a request for funds for park at Sutton Oaks. And so this is just evaluating the properties and looking at what's the most advantageous way for these to go forward to solve for some of the capital needs and just to bring the properties up to the standard in which that we need them to be. It is the most advantageous way to go about it. It would be the same situation where I would be removing the public housing units, and we would go forward with a resyndication. So these two presentations are identical. It's just I'm trying to keep them in campus properties for economies of scale. Whether or not a singular developer wants to come in and partner on all 5 of them, that's to be determined. But I do want to keep the 3 and the 2 together, if that makes any sense. And then there's a map of the campus.
I do have a question. You are going to be able to relocate all the public housing
That is
residents?
correct. And I'm
housing
yes. So we would do with a repositioning, and we would just move the units to our other existing affordable housing portfolio. We internally do a good job with managing public housing. It just gets really challenging when I'm asking a third party to do it. So
Thank you. Any other questions? Being no questions, do I hear a motion for resolution 6758, resolution 6759?
So moved.
We have a motion. Do I hear a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Same sign. Resolution 6758 and 6759 move to the board meeting.
thank you.
Item number 15, update and discussion regarding the frequency of board and committee meetings. Muriel Roeder, Executive Vice President, Chief Administrative Officer, and Davlin Hamill, Board Relations Manager.
Mr. Chair, I think I'm just going to kick off real quick, just as a quick introduction to give you some context. In the last 11 months, we're doing a reorganization to look at how best to be efficient as an organization. So it's a top-bottom across the board. What are we doing, and why are we doing it, and how can we make it better? How can we move the needle, move faster? We have an ambitious agenda in front of us. And so we've done that evaluation. We continue to do it. And I think oftentimes when we've been doing the internal reorg, we've been hearing, well, we've always done it this way, right? But then when we really look into the weeds, think, well, maybe this is not the best way to move forward. So as we're looking beyond the organization and also to the board, right, and looking to see how we operate as a board, I think it's also something we need to consider to make sure that we're efficient. We are using staff time wisely, and we're using the commissioner's time wisely as well. And most importantly, that we're maintaining best practices and are aligned with how other housing authorities across the state and across the United States are conducting meetings as well. So Muriel and Davlin will share some data and a recommendation.
Hello, Commissioners. So I'm Davlin Hamill, I'm the Board Relations Manager. You may know me from, next slide, please. So today, the purpose here is to discuss our ongoing efforts to optimize our support for the board. And as the efficient and effective functioning of the board is critical to our organization, we've been actively seeking ways to improve how we facilitate that work. To this objective, we conducted a review of previous board meeting data in order to analyze trends, identify bottlenecks, and to pinpoint areas where we can streamline this process by engaging in post-meeting reviews, regular process evaluation, and feedback collection. So in further pursuit of these efforts, we've surveyed staff who've contributed significantly to board meeting preparation regarding the time commitment involved, and to hear firsthand the labor hours and the challenges faced in preparing these materials. So when we look at this slide here, we can begin to quantify the financial impact of these labor hours. So the staff preparation for board meetings often significantly contributes a significant portion of their time, which contributes a significant labor cost to our meetings. To provide the necessary context, we surveyed staff regarding the average hours they spend preparing for a meeting and how often they contribute. So with this, we can go in and look at those figures and quantify that financial impact. So we can see here the average labor hours of a cost per meeting is about $8,686 per meeting. And then when we take those numbers and we calculate for a year, our current annual labor cost for meetings is about $173,700. Numbers are hard today. I'm usually behind the screen, not up here. So we can kind of look at these figures and these estimated costs of meeting preparation. They're substantial, of course, but by analyzing them, we can inform board decision-making on scheduling and lead to potential cost-saving measures. So let's look further into these labor hours. First, I'll clarify the scope of this analysis a bit. Note that the data presented here is just a sampling and does not include all contributing staff or related activities. Regarding staff, it does include the majority of staff who regularly contribute. However, not all staff who contribute may be included in these figures. And when we look at labor hours, they focus on the time spent directly preparing board materials and does not include certain hours such as board relation manager hours. As you can imagine, they're inherent to the position, and as much as I like to exceed expectations, they wouldn't really contribute meaningfully to this discussion. This also does not include IT's time spent organizing, managing the necessary technologies, and other logistics that may be coordinated by general services, property staff, client services, or lobby support. And it also doesn't include that general working time that's behind the process that doesn't directly feed into those board materials, especially when the bulk of the background work is the primary function of their regular daily roles. For example, we can look at our standard procurement processes. You've heard a lot of procurement resolutions today, and their regular work involving their solicitation, evaluation, procurement into these items, that's not included in these figures. It's only included whenever it comes to creating these unique documents and materials for board meetings. So when we take all this into account, we can kind of look at those labor hours per department. And if we look at the total per meeting cost for these departments, it's 156.5 hours. And then when we look at that per year, the time spent preparing is about 2,056.5 hours plus or minus 20. So now that I've thrown a lot of numbers at you, you can see how the highest estimated hours per year, which is a significant time investment, is primarily provided by our executive office, DSNR, which is our Development Services and Neighborhood Revitalization Department, and Asset Management. So to tie all this together, I'm going to hand it off to Muriel, and she's going to provide you some additional insight.
Okay. So you heard some information, a lot of data from Davlin regarding the amount of time we spend putting these meetings together. One of the things we did that Davlin didn't talk a lot about is the survey we did of other Texas housing authorities and national housing authorities. And what we found during that survey is that most housing authorities, whether they're in Texas or not, are having just one meeting a month. They do still have committees just like we have here with the Finance Committee and the Operations and Real Estate Committee meetings. However, they don't have regular standing meetings for those committees. They generally meet once or twice a year, and that's what we found consistently across the survey. So, as I just mentioned, the only other, so you have up here all of the major Texas Public Housing Authorities. The only one that's not up there is Dallas Housing Authority. They actually have 2 meetings per month, and they are also considering consolidating to 1 meeting a month as well. So we would be following a trend to take it down to just 1 main meeting a month. That still would allow for committee meetings if you need a committee meeting to discuss like the audit report or if there's some specific real estate items that you want to handle in maybe in operations and real estate committee meeting. Those meetings can still be held. You can also still hold, special board meetings. We're not limiting the amount of, we're not suggesting to limit the amount of meetings that you need to have to conduct the business of the organization. What we're suggesting is we go to a more streamlined process that will allow more efficiency in those meetings. And then also what we found is that a central office, we've tended to go there and host a lot of the meetings, but this past year, we've made a conscious effort to come back out to the properties. What we would also suggest is even if we do reduce down to 1 meeting a month, we would still come out to the properties maybe once a quarter, because we know how much it means to the board to see residents, to talk to residents, to engage with residents, and we don't want that to be taken away. So with that being said, our recommendation is to eliminate monthly standing meetings, and we would go to just the regular board meeting. And then also, as Davlin talked about, this will help with some operational efficiencies. Also, we would still maintain our public engagement, and then, it also helps support the reduction in the financial and labor implications of preparing for these meetings. I know Commissioner Powell isn't here right now, but I know at several meetings, when we get to the board meetings, after we finish the consent agenda items, she's saying, okay, just want everybody to know we've completely vetted these in our committee meetings, so we're just here to approve them. So this basically would consolidate all that into 1 meeting. So that's the data. That's the survey information, and we've made our recommendations, so it is up to the board, and we will, act as your pleasure.
Any questions?
How do you foresee this affecting regular board meeting timing? As of now, regular board meetings range anywhere from 3.5 to 4 hours. These meetings are usually 2.5 to 3 hours if we're going pretty quickly. So if we're going to consolidate all of that into 1 meeting a month, how is that going to affect meeting timing, the time?
So we actually have some data on that. She's pulling it up. So the last, I hate to say it though, since Michael's been here, the board meetings have had a lot to do with cleanup. And those cleanups were mainly done during a closed session. So if you look at our meetings, as you said, the average length, it ranged from, for the board meetings in 2025 to 1 to 5 hours. Go to the next slide. Oh, I have the thing, sorry. But the closed session time, it ranged from 36 minutes to 4 hours and 22 minutes. So a lot of the hours spent in these board meetings have been in closed session. Hopefully.
So do you have historical data that would reflect what it was before the cleanup efforts?
So here, we have 2024 as well. And we still have on the board meetings, we're averaging 2 hours. And the committee and special board meetings, we're averaging an hour. And then in 2024 closed session, we had 9 closed session things. And then on the committee and special board meetings, they were around an hour. So we're not anticipating there to be like a significant increase. Like, we're not anticipating it being, 3 hours here and then 3 hours here. Now it's 6 hours. Because what we have also started doing under Michael's leadership is providing some of our informational as part of reports versus doing actual report outs on some. So for example, the internal audit quarterly report, it was attached as a report. And then in this particular packet, we attached several reports as well, including the recruitment report. So that's another way that we've been trying to work to consolidate and make meetings more efficient.
Commissioner, if I can just add to what Muriel said, I think if we maintain the status quo and getting way into the weeds, they're going to be very long meetings. And I think to Mary's point, we were trying to not get into the weeds and provide the information as supplemental reports. And so we need to move away from, for example, the recruitment HR briefing that's going to be a 20 to 40-minute presentation, Q&A, and that's going into like department positions, vacancies. That's really into the weeds. And so the information will be provided as an attachment. The board can obviously ask any questions about that report, but we're not going to get into those lengthy in the weed presentations just because of timing.
With regards to the reporting, as long as we continue to receive the reports, in advance, as y'all have been doing, that way it's incumbent upon commissioners. We get a chance to review it ahead of time. Any questions we want to ask, we come prepared to ask those questions. And sometimes, and I want to stress this with the commissioners, if you want to ask us questions in advance, we can do so, and they can vet that for us in advance too. But no, I sort of applaud this this move. One, I think there's a level of trust that we've sort of regained, and without, we're talking about everything's moving forward now. I think that this is good. Just as long as where our concerns are, make sure that we're still getting the information. Aside from that.
And to that point, Commissioner Lopez, Commissioner Contreras asked us about a year ago, could y'all start providing us this information a little bit earlier? And so what we did was we made a very concerted effort to try to get y'all the packets a week in advance. We were a day late this last time because of the budget. But other than that, we've been maintaining that, getting the packet to you, a week in advance to allow you time to review it. And if you did have questions in advance to contact us.
Would finance care for a rebuttal on that comment?
Yes. Does finance have a rebuttal on giving me the budget?
Kidding. Yeah.
It's also important to note that while you could bring questions to us in advance, anything that's on the agenda, you can still open up for questions, and we can always pull up any items you would like on the screen, even if it's not part of the master slide deck.
And as you can see from this, Davelin had these other slides available. The reports, every report that we have listed on the agenda is available to be pulled up at any time. So if you had a question regarding one of the reports, we'd pull it up. We have staff here that answer questions, and hopefully we'd be able to address whatever questions you had on day of.
And just to add, Muriel mentioned the only other housing authority that has somewhat of a resemblance to a standing committee is Dallas. What they do have is, it's not a standing committee, it's called a business review. So they meet prior to their regular board meeting or for lunch, and they go over the resolutions, they go over questions over the reports, and then that immediately feeds into the regular board meeting. So that's something we may want to consider as well. That way we address all the board's questions on the same day.
This is a discussion item, so it doesn't require action if it's just a change that we make, staff makes, and we follow. I love it.
I think it's great. I'm excited to have.
Okay, so
back.
with that bit, Commissioner Garcia Diaz, how you feel?
I'm good.
Okay.
We'll see.
Okay. Casillas?
They're not 6.
We'll see. With
We'll
the
see.
new board
Okay.
coming on too, they could change it.
Okay, so with this, that means after our June board meeting, which is going to be June 18th, The next board meeting would be in August, okay? Are y'all comfortable with that?
Yes.
And then we will still continue coming out to the properties. We'll plan to do that on a quarterly basis. Okay? Thank you so much.
I have one question about, sorry, I'm super excited about this and this is great. I want to commend Michael. Like, to me, this is hey, I'm, in my official capacity, I'm looking around in all kinds of places and I'm sure there was a team, you all together elevating ways that we can be more efficient and effective. We all have like wonderings on how it's going to work out, but like, let's try it and we'll adjust as needed. When do we do reassignments for like finance committee chair or any of those roles? Because I will say, I can always do my own prep meeting, which I do. It's not, a part of this on the finance side, but should another person take over either one of these committees, it might require some more strategic onboarding or, just support in being able to drink from that fire hose and feel really confident about understanding either like the finance or operations side.
No, September.
September.
It's in so it usually occurs when we elect our chair and vice chair. So we elect the chair and vice chair in September.
August.
Huh?
August.
Or
It would be the September meeting.
They take over in September.
Go ahead. It's okay. Go
okay, August, September. Okay, so we would elect in August, and then the new chair and vice chair would take over in September. And then at that time, that's usually when we asked if there's anyone that would like to be on these committees. What typically happens is, the chair can actually appoint. And so sometimes what the chair does is he'll ask or she'll ask.
I know that. I saw my name coming back on a finance chair and I was like, oh, okay.
So,
Yeah.
But, usually when they can appoint and then, it would go into effect in September.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
This is awesome. I just really appreciate how you all presented this, the research, the rationale. And so it's really smart and I'm excited to try it.
Thank you.
I just want to see how many people are going to stay for the entire meeting.
Yeah.
We don't have to do that, so.
Well, just notate that to look at it.
Just want to notate that there are reports for operations report, procurement activity, demographic procedures, and quarterly recruitment and staffing updates in our packages. At this time, I would like to thank the staff and residents at Frank Hornsby Apartments, the community manager, Darlene Ocampo, who is an awesome manager because she's my manager at my property also. Client services specialist, Desiree Esparza. Maintenance supervisor is Michael Gray. The maintenance techs, David Oliva and Henry Flores. And the resident services coordinator, Luis Dominguez. Want to thank you all for your hospitality and the residents who were here, but they've left, but that's okay. Thank them for us, Darlene. And at this time, I'd like to take a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
We have a motion. Do I hear a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Meeting adjourned.
Hey.